Okay, let's take a gander inside this transmission now. We've got the valve body out of the way. We can see a lot more clearly what's in there. At least a few of the things. This is the park rod I told you about. That's what gives you park. And then this is your low reverse band servo. This is a rear servo. This is the apply lever. This is your adjustment for the low reverse band. This is your low reverse band right here. See, that looks like a big, almost, if you when we get this thing out, you're gonna notice it's got material facing on the back side of it that goes around the drum here. So sometimes I say you need to replace those, and sometimes you can get away without it, but we're probably going to go ahead and replace just every wear item in this thing. And this is the kick down. This is the front servo. This is a kick down band. This is the apply lever. You can get these in different ratios too. This part right here, one of them shorter or longer, whatever the case may be, or designed differently. At least it gives you a better apply ratio. Probably I would assume that it applies the band quicker. So now I see something here. I'm not going to say this is a problem right now because I just don't know for sure. I know these things. This is your adjustment bolt right here, and this is your kick down band. But I notice when I pull on this, got a lot of space in there. So I'm gonna just say that's probably normal right now, but we'll find out more about that later when we that's the neighbor's, that's the PTSD dog. That's the neighbor's, one of those little Shih Tzu, little shitbag Shih Tzu dogs. They got two of them. That's the male, and I don't know what's wrong with him. He's got mental problems, or he's got like I said, I don't know if he's got post-traumatic stress disorder or whatever, but he does that whenever he wants to be let in. And of course, like any good pet owner that's letting the pet run the household, instead of them run the household, he's let the pet take over. They just do whatever the dog wants, so they let him in whenever he wants to do that. I mean, when he does that noise, they let him in, or let him out, I'm sure. So idiots. So okay then, so we've got more steps to go. So this is a little brief overview, but like I said, we will, like I said, when we put this thing back together, we're going to adjust everything right to the spec that Mopar calls for. So we'll know, we can tell then if this thing is a problem or not. Probably not. I think it's okay now. So we'll find out though. See you in the next step. Next step, we're going to remove the accumulator. The accumulator is right here. It's a piston. It's got a spring on top of it. What an accumulator does is essentially does what its name implies. It accumulates, and in this case, it accumulates hydraulic pressure. If you have some part of the transmission that you don't want the line pressure to shock it, like when you put it in gear, or a gear, sometimes a gear change, automatic gear change, then you route some of the fluid into this chamber, and this, like I said, it's spring loaded, so it just kind of cushions the shock of the hydraulic pressure. So different transmissions use these for different things, and this one's probably like I said, we're going to cover every last piece of this thing in detail and tell you what it is, but this is probably for, I would say on this one, it may be for gear change, it may be for gear engagement. We'll find out. But anyway, the step to go on this is very simple. You're going to pull the spring out first. Now on a 440 high performance, the spring is probably going to be, if you had a 727, the spring is probably going to be on the other side of this. It's below it. But on the 904 and the standard transmission like this one, it's going to be above it. So we're just going to pull that out. And we're just simply going to work this piston out of here, up and out. Ugh. There we go. Now, you look at these seals on here. You can see those are not rubber seals. Those are Those are metal. They're almost like piston rings. They're kind of spring metal, spring steel. They're called sealing rings. They're not called O-rings at all when they're metal like that, but that's what these are. And then we got some. You see this fluid, and you can tell this transmission's damaged because see how the fluid has a lot of clutch residue in it, the black stuff. It's all clutches. Now, like I said, a high mileage and an old transmission like this, you're never going to get away from having that. So it's not necessarily, you know, me speaking as an amateur transmission mechanic here, it's not necessarily death and doom and gloom if you find that. Now, transmissions as they were, they're all going to have that, but like I said, this one already having a problem. It didn't have third gear anymore, so it's probably a good indicator that we got some issues going. So, okay, let's go on to the next step, shall we? Okay then, next step on deck, we're going to have to remove this tail housing, and one of the first things we'll need to do to get that to happen is we're going to need to remove this park rod, and it's kind of in place back here. You're going to pull it out. Now what I had to do, this thing has a rounded shape on the end of it, and there's a sprag in this transmission in here that it has to pass through. So what I had to do, and what the book suggests also, is sometimes you have to rotate this output shaft in different directions while you're pulling on this thing forward, and you get the right spot, the magical spot, and it just goes poof, right out. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to snort in your face there. Anyway, no springs or anything fly out, and you don't have to yank on it. When it comes out, it just slides right out, so you'll know when you're in the right spot. So what we do to get this tail housing off is, obviously we have bolts around the perimeter, and then something you may not know unless you watch this video or read the instructions is you have a little cover right here that goes about like that, and it's got two Phillips screws in there, and they were not hard to get out at all. And what that gives you access to is you have a bearing in here, and then it has a snap ring. As you can see, there's a big snap ring there. You have to spread that snap ring out, and then when you get these, well, you're going to take your bolts out first, and then you're going to spread the snap ring, and then you're going to start trying to work this thing off. Now at this point you would take out the speedometer adapter, but we've already done that. So when we went around the external of the transmission and removed things we didn't need in the way, we took that out, so that's already gone, so that's fine, good to go. So I'm going to begin working on that. I believe that is a series of, ain't that one, let me see here what we got on hand. I got a 9/16, I believe that is a 9/16. I'm not sure about these wrenches. Yeah, it is. Here it is. Looking for that. Yeah. Hey-ya. Yep, 9/16. So grab you a 9/16 tool of choice and pop all those out, bag them up. And this one has a small clip somewhere. Yeah, there it is. To retain the reverse light switch wiring, so you can put that back where it goes when you put it back together. So okay, proceeding on, and I gotta tease somebody, this isn't meant meanly, but say I'm broke, I don't have a lot of money, so I have to repair my transmission here in my house. I don't have the money to find the guy from Gas Monkey Garage and send my transmission out to have it rebuilt, especially if it comes back making a lot of noise. But that's just me. Okay, let's get going on this. What I'm doing at this step is I'm going ahead and getting the tail shaft off. I know I just said that, but I'm doing something that's a little bit aggravating, so I want to bring you up to speed on what I'm doing. Now, you get the bolts out of this, and they're in there pretty tight, but you get the bolts all out and bag them up. And you have your speedo adapter out. What's left before you can get this housing to just come on off is you have a, like I showed you, you have a snap ring that's down in there, and it's just one of these that has to be spread out externally, and then there's a bearing. That shiny spot you see is that the outside circumference of a bearing. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to spread that thing out, and these are the kind of snap rings that they take a special kind of snap ring plier, which is not, This really actually is a snap ring. The rest of them are really circlips. But this is kind of just has to spread out like this. And there is nobody on this side of the country that has one of those in stock. You have to order them, or you have to go chase the Snap-on truck or the Mack tool truck to get one. And I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not going to order it. I'm not going to stop what I'm doing just to get that thing. So I dicked around with these things that are sold everywhere, which don't do crap for those things. And they'll work, they'll work so you can spread them out, but they don't spread out far enough. This old pair I had that I never liked because it's got these interchangeable tips, it didn't spread out far enough. So that was a bust. So what I had to end up doing is just taking a regular set of needle nose pliers and just work on it, take both hands and work to spread that thing out. And I finally, as you can see, I hope you can see, down in there, I've got that popped out of its groove, and hopefully now I can proceed to slide this backwards. So let's see, I'm just going to do this one-handedly. That's why I always do it. Here we go. Dun, dun, dun. And that snap ring is going to stay in there for now, so don't worry about getting it out. And then we'll see what we see here. This is your output. Ow, my leg. My output shaft. The transmission's output shaft. And rear bearing. Got a rear bearing retainer with a split snap ring, circlip. I think it's circlip. This is the part that drives. This is the drive gear for the speedometer. You know, you have your black plastic, whatever color it is, your plastic gear that goes in the pinion housing, the speedometer pinion housing, and all that. That's what drives it. So this part's steel. And then you got another circlip here, and then this is your governor assembly here, and then this is your parking pawl. Now that thing, when I told you a while ago, I said it had to get past the Sprague to get out of there. What that means is it had to clear this, one of these little things here. Let's see if I've got that. Yeah. So this sits in here like this, and then let's see, that's not what's in this housing. We're learning together, aren't we? Okay, yep, told you something wrong there. Not really, but kind of. Oops. So, like I said, I always watch these videos all the way through. It has to come out of that thing there. It goes in there, and then there's a parking pawl right there that thing will pop out, and it engages those teeth right there, those dog legs. So that's how that works. So if you're one of those people that for whatever reason at some point in your life that you've tried to put the car in park with it still rolling and it makes that noise, that's that thing there coming out and grinding itself away on that. So, and something else I noticed about this tail housing that was sort of interesting. These Chryslers always have a lot of assembly marks on them, and this one's no exception. This has a 241 in paint on it there. So that's neat. So we'll try to preserve that. So let me put that back over here, and I'm going to charge my camera a little bit. And our next step, we're going to have to take this governor, that bearing and that governor off, and so we'll have the fun of doing that coming up. So yeah. So in this step, what we need to do is we need to remove this bearing on the tail shaft, and there's a real heavy duty circlip, which I guess you would call it, what I call it, right there on the rear of that. So I started working on that, and I realized pretty quick that my cheapo circlip pliers just weren't going to cut it. They didn't open it up far enough. So went and had to invest in a set of channel lock, made in USA, heavy duty circlip pliers. So we're gonna need to go ahead and I think that's gonna do the trick. A reversible. I like them pretty good and hope they hold up. Everybody says buy American. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put you on the mini stand while I work on this. And I'll just kind of narrate what I'm doing. Excuse the weird angle there for a few. You should have had your mini stand already put on your computer, on your camera. That way we wouldn't have to spend 10 seconds waiting for you to put the camera where you need it. Alright. Sorry about that. Okay, let's get this. What are we looking at? What are we looking at? What are we looking at? Okay. Put you over here. Dude turned around there. Oh boy, I'm all over the place. See if that's gonna do it. I think it will. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this going. I'll tell you what, the circlips have been the bane of my existence lately. And when you put this bearing back in, make sure you put it the right way with the slot going forward. And just inspect underneath. Everything looks, so far looks good there. So this is a well, okay then. This is an FAG Canada bearing, and it felt good. I'm not even gonna go there. Let's just put the bearing in a bag and label it. And we'll check that bearing out later to ensure that it's in good shape. Put the bearing in the circlip. Bag it up. And just right on my little thing that I'm bagging it up with, I just put tail housing, bearing. And normally I don't have a problem remembering where things go if I take it apart, but we just don't want to try to risk that. And the next thing we're going to need to do, I'm going to refer to my good book back here. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to pry off the snap ring behind the governor right here. This is the weight end of the governor valve body. These are the weights right here. I'll take that off, I'll show you that a bit closer. All right now. Okay, slide the valve and shaft assembly out of the governor body. So that's going to be oh, okay, I did something wrong here. Hang on. Hang on, put this back and start over. You will remove this, but not right now. I got mixed up here what I was doing. So let's just put this back and start over. Okay, after you get the bearing off here, just ignore that we ever did that. What's going to happen is actually the snap ring is in here. Duh. See that guy there? So that has to come out. Messed up here today. Okay then, so let's work on that. Let's see, I'm going to have to reverse these things. Not a big fan of these things at all, but whatever. So, this is convenient enough. Now, how is that going to be held on there? I don't know what I'm doing, you think? There we go. That's bad when you got to remember how to use a set of snap ring pliers, so-called snap ring pliers. Okay, enough futzing around here. Let's see what we can do with this. Let's turn this. This valve feels like it's moving freely. That's a good sign. There we go. Move that. I'm assuming that means that has to come out this end here. Okay, let's see. I think I got you set. Anyway, this was kind of a pain in the rear to figure out this governor, how it's going to come out of here. And essentially, this has one small side. Nothing comes out this end. Everything has to come out the large end here of the governor body. This is the governor body here. So first thing I did, this is what came out of it. First thing I did is I pulled out this circlip, large one, and then I removed this little E-clip off the end here, and kind of did that in reverse order. Actually, I think what it is, I did the E-clip first. When I did that, the inside part here dropped out of the small end out on the tray here. And then when I removed the large circlip, sorry I told you that backwards, when I removed the large circlip, then that's when this weight came out. It came out this end. And remember that there's two ends to this, obviously, and when you put this back together, one end has a circlip and one does not. You put the weight end that has a circlip, that goes out this way. Remember, when you look at this thing back together, large circlip, small circlip, E-clip. So that's how you're going to put all this back together. So that was a pain. It's one of those things where you can't really always figure it out. Fighting the camera stand. So, alright, well, we got that done. And, you know, so far there's not been anything, I'm going to eat my words there, but so far there's not been anything about this that's been scary. It's been pretty easy. Of course, that could all change, but so far I'm remembering all of it. That's my great fear, is that if I go away from this for a week or whatever, then I'm going to forget how to do stuff. Now, I was messing with this, and I already took this little, there's a snap ring right behind this. I already took that loose because I thought that was lining something up. That was just due to my ignorance. So we do need to go ahead and remove this. So I'm going to use my fancy schmancy deal here. Bag it up again. Go buy some more bags. So what I'm going to do on this one is simply put this in a bag, and I'm going to label it behind governor housing. Backwards, but now everything says that this is supposed to now slide right off the shaft. So let's see if that's true or they lied to us. Well, it's true. So this would be the governor housing, And there again, I incorrectly called these sealing rings. I called them steel. They certainly look like steel, but whoops, you can see that, can you? There's two more right here, and I believe these are actually cast iron. Now, I know that some people have experimented and changed these around in different places in these transmissions with Teflon sealing rings, and they haven't seemed to have very good luck with them because they can split or they can get rolled over when you put them in, and then you can have problems. But so far though, knock on wood, this transmission has seemed pretty clean. I don't see whatever's going on with the clutches notwithstanding. The rest of it, I don't see any kind of, I don't see anything scary. I mean, it's not even sludged up or anything, so that's something to be thankful for. So, and you got a gasket back here at the back. Might as well. Ooh. Well, that's why I gotta. Yeah, it's gonna dry it out. That's why I got a pan here. Try to save this thing so as much as possible, so whenever you, that ain't going too good. Whenever you're ready to put her back together, you put the same one back in, which I don't think that's an issue, but well, okay. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna take this off, clean this the gasket off here off camera, and then we're gonna turn this around, and we've got kind of a challenge ahead of us. We're gonna have to pull out the front pump and the what's called the reaction shaft support, which that's gonna come out the front. So we're gonna get into start taking our stuff unloading out of the front of the transmission now. So let me get this done and get this turned, arrange my tools a little bit more, and get this all situated, and I'll be right back with you.